Hello, everyone. Okay, so this is the last slide. But does it work? No, that's the last slide. Okay, so this is the last slide. You've seen it all. All right. So I guess we're able to start soon. So what I will do right now is just give you like a brief overview of what happened in the last 12 months. I think some of the interesting stuff that's happening right now, and I will tell you a crazy story of what happens when you actually start building agents. So this is what I'm going to talk about. Maybe just a bit of background so that you can understand it. So actually I'm not a software developer or software engineer, basically just have a business background and then started working with agents and with agentic coding. And does the clicker work? No, it doesn't. Yes. All right. So what we are going to, or what we have experienced over the last months is that obviously an agent is way much more than a chatbot. However, most of the people still don't really differentiate and think like when they're using Microsoft Copilot that this is like the frontier of what's actually possible out there. If we take a short look back of what happened, and of course we started with something like this around 2023 when there was like the launch of ChatGPT 4, where basically chat became kind of like a platform where then people started to build up on. What was coming next is actually the agents or the chats became access to tools via MCP, so that happened like a year later. Then actually 2025, the agents became really like products, and with the launch of Claude Code and Codex, suddenly there were completely new possibilities available. And what we see basically from this year is that agents really become an execution layer and actually start moving things. And if we take a look what the discussions are all about, then also the terminology of how we talk about agents is changing, because it's moving way much more to talk about products, it's way much more talk about executions, way much more talk about rails and guardrails, and way much more talk about control, and less about the stuff that we've experienced. When we take a look at what is happening at the moment, then I think it's like really hard for most of the people that are not experiencing with it to understand what's going on, because there is like such a high pace of innovation. So what I mapped for you here is just that you can quickly see what is actually happening in terms of major releases from the hardware side to then actually the AI labs to then agents on top of that. So if you take a look at the releases from NVIDIA at the bottom, I mean, this is what usually we know from business, what is going to happen in maybe a year or 1.5 years. But it's just happening in the first 6 months of this year. Then you see that the AI labs, so including Google DeepMind, Anthropic, or OpenAI, are releasing even more often. And if you would put an agent like OpenClaw on top of that, you actually have like weekly and daily releases. So it's like really hard to actually keep up with the pace of innovation that we're having at the moment. Sorry. It's not working all the time. What is interesting, if we also take a look at the US, then what is happening there right now is what you see on this graph is actually a comparison of the investments in infrastructure, in corporate real estate, and in AI factories. AI factories are basically what we called data centers before. So US is now at the turning point where there is like more money invested in data centers than actually in corporate real estate. So they are building more space for agents than we are actually building for humans. And if you combine some of the things that are going on, I don't know if you've seen the chart from GitHub, then the speed and the execution are really coming together. So this is just an example from GitHub, how long it took to reach like 200,000 stars on GitHub. So it took like React, I think 28 years it was. It took Linux 30 years to reach that. It took OpenClaw something like 2 months. So this is why then people started to talk about that this is not a hockey stick anymore, it's a stripper pole. Same thing if we look at the releases that are actually then coming out of coding agents. There's like a massive increase in releases, no matter if you look at like website, if you look at apps, or if we look at the contributions to GitHub as an example, the UK and the US. So people are starting to use agents, and agents with their coding capabilities are actually producing more and more work out there. And I think this is also just the beginning, because most of the people are actually not in it and are still using it as a chatbot, obviously. But this is going to change, so even all the big AI labs are trying to push that on the consumers to make agents a way bigger topic. So this was just last week from the Financial Times, where OpenAI talked about how they are going to rebuild than the normal ChatGPT app to become more like Codex. So more and more people will get exposed to agents over the next months. But we're still like super early. So I think it's interesting with this chart because you see all the gray dots. Those are something like roughly 3 million people in the world. And most of the dots have not had any experience with AI or agents at all. What you then see is like the green dots. Those are the people that are actually experienced or basically played around with AI. So those are, you know, something like 20% globally, and then you have the yellow ones. Those are the ones that actually pay for it. Yeah. So most of the people are still using free versions, and if you're a little bit experienced, then you know that there is a massive difference between using a free version and actually a paid version. And then you have the red dot, and the red dot is actually people that are using coding agents. So it's still nobody. But there is a big difference when we look at the investments that are going on, even like from business side, into agents and AI at the moment. So again, while most of the companies are still playing around with Copilot and think that this is an agent and they're basically on the frontier of what's going on, if you take a look at the US, the top 1% of the companies are investing $7,500 per person per month into tokens. So it's something where the medium salary of a software developer in the US is $15,000. So it's basically per software developer, there's 50% of the salary already in terms of token budget that they will receive from their employer. It's something that Jensen Huang talked about at the GTC like 2 months ago, and everybody laughed at him when he said, like, if you take a look in the future, he said that there is like the average salary of like 500K per year for a developer, and you will actually contribute something like 50% as a salary. People thought it's completely crazy. 2 months later, the top 1% are actually doing that already. So what we see is that there is this massive shift away from actually being like a chat window and actually becoming like really an agent that takes over tasks. And I think most of the people have not understood how fundamental this shift actually is and what are all the opportunities that would actually come with that. What we talk about, or how we call it in our company, is actually more like agentic engineering, or if you then turn it into business, agentic business engineering. Because at the end of the day, it's like you have coding agents mainly, and you can do software with coding agents, but in a business, everything is actually software. I mean, if you look at marketing, finance, logistics, everything is software. So if you're then able to use agents to actually improve the software of whatever department, we would rather call that business engineering, what is then happening if you go outside of it. Okay, so here's the crazy story that I wanted to share with you, and it's lobster lager. Has anybody heard of lobster lager here? Perfect. So that's great. So we started to play around with agents. We built like a lot of things for our own company, and then we thought like, okay, how can we wake up even more people with what's possible with agents? And obviously, if you do this in a business context and you like connect different tools and allow agents to execute certain things in a CRM, that's interesting for some people, but not easy to understand for everyone. So we thought about, okay, how can we bring it like more to the center stage? And we thought like, okay, we need to take somebody where people would say like, this is not a really advanced digital person. So we thought about, okay, let's take a pensioner. Yeah, usually you would say pensioners are like not the people that would play around with agents. And then we thought, okay, let's bring it out of the software world and let's try to connect it with hardware, yeah, so that it's also something that people can actually touch. And then we thought like, okay, so how can we do that? And we came up with the idea of just taking my father, who's a pensioner. He's like a former policeman, no development background, but he had a hobby, and his hobby was that he started to run a microbrewery in Switzerland. And then we said, okay, so that might be something interesting because it also involves beer, so it's easy to grab the attention of people. So what we confusing. So what we then did is basically, that was in January, and we helped my father to actually install OpenClaw on his MacBook, and kind of like left him alone with OpenClaw and Agent. And we said like, hey, what would be really cool is like when you usually do everything for your microbrewery, just do it with an agent now, yeah? But it's like the two of you and you run through the whole process. And one of the key things was actually trying to figure out if OpenClaw and he can manage to connect the brew tank that he has, so that OpenClaw can actually control also the brewing process. So that was the tough part, and it took him something like 48 hours. Then he could access the brew tank via Bluetooth, and he could do it. And then there was so you see some of the photos here. So he managed to do that, and he started then with OpenClaw to build his own software. Brew OS, it's actually on GitHub, so he publishes now stuff also on GitHub, where he can control the whole brew process, and he also has recipes included in there. And all of that stuff, then OpenClaw can access his brew tank. At one point, he just sent me a message. He's usually using Telegram to communicate with OpenClaw. He sent me a message saying like, hey, the lobster got eyes. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, so I have actually figured that I have an old webcam, and then I just connected it to the MacBook, and it actually works. And now OpenClaw can also have a visual control of the brewing process, not the sensors alone from the brew tank. So they experimented with quite some stuff, and then they did it, and they ran through. Yeah, so then we presented this at ClawCon in Vienna to people. It's like, hey, we're actually doing this. It's just an idea we managed, and that's cool. And people were like, okay, that's like a funny story. And then something like 3 or 4 weeks later, suddenly the phone rings, and then you pick up, it's a US number, and then somebody says, hi, I'm Nico from NVIDIA. We actually found like Lobster Lager. We think it's like a really cool project. We would like to feature you guys. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool thing. Not sure why we need to discuss that on Saturday evening, but yeah, cool thing. And then they're like, yeah, we're a bit in a hurry because, you know, Monday there is like the GTC in San Jose, and we really like to show it there. And then you're like, okay, so you guys are the most valuable company in the world, and you found our small little, you know, fun project, and you want to feature it. And it's like, yeah, can we please have a call? So we did the call with them, and then they said, yeah, no, all cool, we really like it, we want to push it in, and we're now going to connect you to the team of Jensen. And you're like, you're doing what? It's like, yeah, no, it's for Jensen, it's for his keynote. We want that he talks about it in a keynote. So long story short, this actually happened. So then the CEO of the most valuable company featured our project in his keynote. So you can watch it online if you want, and it actually runs through like the whole process again, what they did. And what was interesting about that is that it enabled actually like something, not just a brew process that obviously my dad could do alone, but it allows him to basically do the whole process from A to Z. So they went through like, what beer should we actually brew, what's popular, what are the ingredients that we need, where can we get the ingredients. The whole purchasing of the ingredients was done by OpenClaw. Then they did the brew together, they set up a website, e-commerce, payments, community management, newsletters, everything. He does most of the stuff from the sofa via Telegram with OpenClaw and running it. So we went through that. Then also some other stuff happened, like we got media coverage, like Peter Steinberger talked in his TED Talk about Lobster Lager and the project and how it's actually big. We went to different awards. got some stuff. My father kept on building, so he's still like building on the website. He built now also his own dashboard. He built displays in his brewery. The last thing that he did is he actually managed to connect Bluetooth scales so that he has like in his brewery he has like an open bar so that he knows like how much weight is in the keg, so he knows how much beer is left in the cake and he can display that. So he has now Bluetooth scales that are actually measuring the weight constantly when somebody's like taking a beer and how much is left. So he keeps on building with that stuff. He also built like an app for different other things. So it kind of like totally enabled him being together with an agent to do things that were like completely impossible before. And we think that this is actually like the really interesting stuff. Yeah? So that when you take the possibility that you have with agents and then you actually combine it with like this domain expertise that people have, you bring like completely new people in the situation that they can do something, and they can do something that goes far beyond just coding. It actually allows them to build business, and this is what we would then call, as I said, agentic business engineering, and what we think is like the big opportunity there. And he's like now totally into it, so they are chatting obviously on a daily basis. Again, he's doing all kinds of stuff with it that was not possible before, and he's trying to get deeper into it just because he experienced it and he tried it.
May I ask a question to him on that?
Sure.
How much support did he need in order to set these things up? Or was it just he on his own with his knowledge and open claw? Or were there times when he said, okay, I need a little more input on this, or I need a little more coding experience, or for instance, hosting setups or DNS configuration or whatever? There are so many aspects in that where you might need more expertise than you just have on your own.
No, he did it actually all alone, and he just asked the agent. So the only thing where he needed help was to set it up in the beginning, which was not so easy, because we're talking here about like actually beginning of February. So it was still complicated to set up OpenClaw, but everything else he then did with the agent. And he used OpenClaw, and when he ran into problems with OpenClaw, he switched back to Codex, and then basically like one agent helped the other agent to figure stuff out. So they did it all by himself, and usually he just updated me on what his latest progress was and is. Yes.
I'm curious to know if like how much time and money you spend on this. Because if you're new, you're trying to learn, but then you're burning through code.
Yeah. So he did it all with his 20 euro or 20 Swiss francs ChatGPT subscription where Codex is included, and he powered OpenClaw with Codex, and that was it. And I think in total the project to set it up took him something like a week, and the hardest part was then actually doing the hardware part. Yes, and I think like if you take this and the possibilities that are there, and that you can now do things that are out of reach before, it actually leads to the point that if you think about it in an organizational context, that we are challenged with actually unlearning a lot of things, because obviously you're able to do things that were not there before, and if you do this, it changes what is actually business. How do you work in an organization and what is possible? Because if you have agents that are working together with you as part of like a hybrid team, then the question is also like where a lot of people say, hey, I can't get work done, I'm in meetings all the time. Like, are meetings really a bad thing, or are meetings maybe not a bad thing anymore because the agent actually works while you're in a meeting? So I think this is one of the hardest things that we are facing when it comes now to the adoption of agents, and I think what we will have to deal with this year and next year is actually with unlearning some of the things that we know from university or from business that we have experienced over the last 20, 30 years, because they're just not relevant anymore, because there are now new possibilities there and you can do things in a completely different way. And that's pretty much it. So thank you everyone, and yes? There is a mic coming. I think it doesn't work. But I can hear you.
But you can hear me.
I don't know. Maybe that's your experience. I think like for most of the people, I think they still get benefits out of it, and I think if you apply it then to different problems, what we could experience basically with our projects is that if you go out and try to help organizations, the problems that they are facing. I mean, you can take a model that's like 3 years old, and it will get stuff done for them. Yeah, I'm not working for an AI lab, so I can't tell you that what's the strategy behind the models. But I can just tell you with the chart that I showed before with the gray dots, like most people are just not there. And with the current models, you can create so much more value for people and for companies already, so that maybe there are issues when it goes then to like really deep work. But there is still so many opportunities, and most companies still believe that, you know, chatbot is the thing. So I think there's just like a lot of adoption work that still needs to be done. But I don't know where the labs are heading. Yes. Yeah.
To unlearn something. But now you showed like a new product basically, like you just did like from scratch, and everybody's talking about that's where like those AIs are the best at, if you just start from something that was never done before. Do you have experience with actually like unlearning and then building something that was done before manually without agents and now is being done with agents successfully within a company?
Yeah, so so this is the stuff that we are actually doing. So we're helping companies to use, again, agentic engineering to improve their business. And like some of the easiest things that we're doing is like customer service, where you then automate like how companies are answering emails from customers. And, you know, it usually takes like 5 days, and you can free up 4 people or something that would be responsible for that. And then those people can do different things and can create more value for the company. So we do this for one client, and it's a tourist attraction. And now the people are not answering the emails anymore. They are thinking about how they can do upselling and improve the guest experience there.
And how's that scaling? Because it sounds like a no-brainer. Sounds like if you invest 5 days to free up 4 people, that sounds like basically every company would need to do that. And is the demand, like what's like the demand side versus the supply side?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is it takes 5 days for you to build it with an agent, but it takes the organizations weeks to process it. But it's possible to do it. So what I think is shifting is that the bottleneck is not the technology anymore. The bottleneck is actually the people and the organizations and how they think that things are done. And basically, to pinpoint it, it's the lack of imagination that things can be run in a different way. And that is, I think, now the hurdle that we need to overcome in the next months and years, because the technology to a large extent is already there.
Thank you.
Sorry, next to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the interesting talk. I have a question. Do you have any success stories about use cases which OpenCloud or agents are used in organizations? Let's say I'm working on OpenCloud since a few months now, and I found it's amazing. I did great things, but it seems that it's still like a toy, or you can do small things, but I'm not sure about business cases, if it's already there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously there is Lobster Lager, where you actually to do that and then actually scale your microbrewery to a level that is like, that has not been possible before. I mean, there are things then happening that you cannot imagine. I mean, like NVIDIA wants to have the beer now, so there are talks about the licensing deal in the US and things like this. I mean, my father gets invited to be a keynote speaker and things. So there is definitely business that you can do there. From our experience, I think there is a lot of stuff that you can do in the area of customer service. That's a no-brainer. You can do a lot of stuff when it comes like to sales. What we are currently working on in the US is with a big car dealership group. to actually improve the way how a car dealership is operating with the help of agents, where there are like a lot of things where you have like data entries, or where it comes about like up-to-date customer information, where agents can really help you to do that while completely rebuilding the software infrastructure that is there. I think that would be some of the obvious points. What is also interesting is what we're discussing with national innovation agencies, is how they deal with the situation that now more and more agents are actually applying for innovation funds, and how to help them to actually manage that. One question.
Two more questions, and then we have to go slowly forward.
Okay, it sounds great. I personally haven't had the chance yet to work with an agent. I just heard that in OpenClaw there's quite a bit of security issues, or there were some security issues. And you are, of course, telling us the success story, but maybe not so much about what did not work in working with OpenClaw. So these are my questions. Like, did your father use a completely separate computer, and were there any security issues that you run into, or that would be a risk? If there are such risks, is OpenClaw still the best thing to go with, or are there any alternatives that might cover such risks better?
Yeah, so basically we just used OpenClaw at that point, so not sure if OpenClaw is the best for everyone. And regarding the security, we just helped him to set it up on a separate MacBook. That was it. And then what he used for the purchasing when OpenClaw ordered products was that he set up a temporary credit card with like Revolut. Obviously, you would not give OpenClaw your real credit card. Like most likely, you would also not give your real credit card to your teenage kid. And so, yeah, so I think you can handle it in a way that you can actually control it. I think security gets better. We can talk about if OpenClaw is really a security risk, or is it actually gives you better protection than what you get from other AI labs. But you can manage to do that. And I think, like with everything else, you need to start small. And the interesting thing is you don't need up-to-date hardware. So, I mean, we installed OpenClaw on a MacBook Pro that's like 10 years old. And you can still then get value out of that, while usually you wouldn't do anything with that computer anymore.
My question is, do you know of examples where OpenClaw sits behind an API which is paid then, for example, that through X402 or any of these micropayment services isn't directly monetized? Do you know some of these examples, or does it not exist yet?
I personally don't know anything about that yet, but we are discussing something similar with a client to actually implement that. But I haven't seen anyone out in the wild, but it could of course be that there is an example. Yes.
My question was more about if you're like an SMB trying to get into the agent space, business, how do you go about like vendor selection? Like if you have already maybe an ERP system or some kind of other SaaS business product, you have a bit of AI going on in there, and then you're hearing this buzz about Claude and all these, open Claude, I don't know, so many different things popping up.
Yeah, so
Go ahead with that, and also maybe understand the total cost of ownership.
yeah.
So what are the different?
So quick reply, because we are running out of time. So basically, number one request that we get currently is like companies asking us how we can help them to replace Salesforce and HubSpot. So you can build your own software, and I think if you use coding agents and build your own software, it's 100% customized to your organization. That is a massive benefit, because all other SaaS software that you get out there is basically like the lowest common denominator between all other companies that are using it. So it works, but it's not great for anyone. And coding agents would allow you to actually customize now the software. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so. Thank you so much, Stefan, for that fabulous opening keynote session. Can we please have a bigger round of applause for Stefan? He was patient enough to answer all of your questions. And we particularly enjoyed your remarks on the topic that agents are becoming economic actors and not just interfaces. Quite relevant and interesting. So staying true to the track of the agentic economy, we will now move on to an impact demo session. And in this demo session, our speaker will be showing us how and why agents are creating value right now. And to welcome this speaker onto the stage, please join me in putting your hands together and giving a round of applause to Hira Siddiqui, the co-founder of Plurality Network. She's also a well-known Web3 blogger and an IT architect. Can we have a round of applause for Hira, please? Over to you.
Thank you. Where is this? I think. So, hi everyone, I'm Hira. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Plurality Network, but this is not the right slide. Can you move back to the first one? Okay. So, perfect. Okay. So we're all talking about agents a lot. I'll let them figure out and I'll try to start talking about it anyways. We're talking a lot about how agent is the product, how you need to use Codex or Cloud Code or OpenClaw or whatever, but we're all talking about the agents. I'm going to try to make a different case today, and that case is that, okay, agent is one of the products, but that isn't the only product, and that's certainly not the most valuable product. The context is. So what do you guys, because I normally don't like to do slides where I'm just talking and nobody else is speaking. So let's take it like a discussion. What do you guys think when you think of context? What do you think? What comes to mind? So the use case, for example, when you're, yeah? Okay, so context for a coding project, for example, yeah? Exactly, yeah, the situation, the background, the context, the scope of the problem that you're trying to solve, yeah? Yeah, permissions, access control, who's able to access what exactly, yeah? Exactly. Memory, that's a very important part of context. So you guys are right, that's pretty much what context is all about. Now, another question for you. Where do I need to do this? I don't think it's working. Maybe down? Oh, okay. Okay, so another question. How many AI tools did you use last week? So an AI tool could be an AI agent, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, could be OpenClaw, could be Cloud Code, Codex, whatever. Everything counts. So just take us 10 seconds, think about how many AI tools did you use last week. Okay, are there any people here who, oh, 10. Okay, there's one person with 10, there's one person with 4, 2, okay. I think I used 4 in the last week. So we are all using a lot of different AI tools. Okay, yeah. So we talk to a lot of AI native users, people who are trying to get ahead in the AI race, trying to educate themselves, trying to automate their workflows. And most of these users, what we call like AI native users, are using between 3 to 5 AI tools per week. And on top of that, there are some users that are handling a lot of context. So for example, let's take the example of Sarah. She's a marketer, and she's working with 10 different brands, and she has 20 different customers across 10 different brands, let's say. She has to produce a lot of content. She has to produce a lot of GTM strategies, content blogs, content pieces. And every time she goes to a new AI tool, she needs to do something very stupid over and over again. and that is repeating her context. Every new session she starts, she writes like, this is my ICP, this is my audience, this is my product, this is the brand voice, this is that. And if you're somebody who's using agents a lot and working with a lot of AI tools and working with a lot of context, this adds up pretty fast. Maybe I'll just ask you and then you can, okay? So, yeah, so I'd like to present a case, and I'd like to say that agent is just the interface. And a lot of the agents, okay, there are different agents that are good at different things, but more or less, all of the big AI labs and all of the big agents are pretty much able to do the same job at a pretty much similar level. So where is the value accrual that's happening? I would say the value accrual is happening in the context, because this is the same data moat that was happening when social media came out, for example, or how big tech works. And because context is so important, that is why there is this data race that's going on right now. So every big AI company, be it Anthropic, be it OpenAI, be it Google, what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to make you produce as much context inside their small bubble, inside their ecosystem, and make switching very, very difficult. Similar to, like, for example, if you're on Twitter and you have a lot of followers, it's not really easy to move to another social platform. But social platforms are different. Here we are talking about really being able to do things for your business, for your company, for your employment, and then you're being made to stick to one ecosystem and not very easily move to another ecosystem. So context is the new data mode, and if you see at what the big AI labs these days are working on, they're going pretty heavy on memory. Somebody here mentioned short-term and long-term memory. That's exactly what they're trying to go really deep on. For example, ChatGPT just launched Dreaming, which allows them to go across all of your previous chats and extract key facts and summaries about you. So they're all really trying to understand who you are, and then making sure that it's not very easy for you to move to another provider, another AI tool, with your data intact. And that is a problem that we want to solve. The previous one, yeah. So what we're trying to work on is, our vision is that you have one context, one knowledge base, one memory, whatever you want to call, and you're able to take your entire context as a data backpack, for example, and you can carry it to any AI tool that you use, whether it is Gemini, whether it is OpenClaw, whether it is Higgsfield, whether it is Claude, whether it is Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, whatever. Your data is yours, and you should be able to move it as easily as you switch websites. That is our vision that we are working towards. And that is why we built AI Context Flow on top of what we call the open context layer. It's an MCP native knowledge base that you can plug into any AI that you use. I'm going to show you in a while how to do that. It's version controlled, so you can see what facts were extracted, when they were changed, where they were added from, who changed it. So that entire decision history, that entire version history, it's shareable across a team. So for example, if you and your colleague are working on the same project, you can actually create the same knowledge base, and you can connect it to different AI tools of your choice. So for example, your colleague probably prefers working with Codex, but you like Claude Code better. Why not have the same, the architectural decisions, the coding framework, whatever, why not have it in the same knowledge base and then be able to connect it anywhere you want? And we also want to make it monetizable. I'm going to talk about it in a little while. But before we move forward, I want to show you the demo. However, we cannot show the demo from here, so I'll have to move to the back, and you guys can keep watching the screen. Bear with me with this setup. Okay, can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to show you what we built, and then we can have a short question-answer session afterwards. So this is a product which we call AI Context Flow. You can access it by going to this website, app.plurality.network. You can sign up with Google or with your MetaMask, however you want, but I'm just gonna go ahead with Google. And here you have these different folders. We call them memory buckets. So these are all the different projects that I've been working on. Some of them are coding projects, some of them are marketing projects, so different things. Some of them are just like notes or things that I sometimes think about and just like put random stuff in. So it's like a lot of different stuff. But let's create a new bucket and let's call it GTM for product X, let's say. So I create this bucket, I go into it. Now I can upload files, I can upload text, I can do a lot of different stuff. But let's just upload file. What do I have? Okay, I'm just uploading a random PDF file. But you can upload PDF, Excels, whatever. What else you can do is, like, for example, you're searching for that project. So GTM strategies for SaaS, let's say. And then you go to a website. Now let's say you're reading this and you find like these are really good tips and you want to store it so that your AI agents can use this information later on. You can either copy it, right-click it, and you can save the whole page, or you can just save the selected text to AI memory. It will ask you, okay, where do you want to save it? So I will just add it in the new bucket that we created. I can also like open a sidebar here and ask it to extract key facts out of this whole page. So I have like a lot of models here as well that I can switch from. I can access this whole website, but yeah, this is like the sidebar. But let's go back to the bucket and see what's stored here. So it says that we have one PDF file that we uploaded. This was added by me. And then there was some content that was saved from the web from this URL. So I can like add hundreds of different entries in this. But here's where it gets interesting. So how do you actually connect this data with your actual agents? For example, so that's where the MCP comes into play. So you connect via MCP, and it's really, really simple. We also have written detailed guides for it if you want to read through it, but I'm just going to show you really quickly. So you just copy this URL. Claude Desktop is my favorite go-to agent. So I will just go there, and there is this button called Customize. I click on it. I click the connector. I click the plus and add custom connector. I call it, let's say, AI context flow. And then I add the URL. Then I just add it. And it will say, okay, you're not connected yet, so I'm just going to connect it. And it's asking me that this Claude will get access to your memories, and it will be able to save things across your memories, read your documents, stuff like that. So I just allow access. And now it's connected. I just go back, and I just open a new chat, and I say, what's in my GTM strategies, check AI context flow. So whatever you can do from the Memory Studio, you can also do from the MCP. So you can create new buckets, you can access buckets, you can edit memories, you can delete memories, you can do anything. And whatever you will be working on Claude, for example, later on you want to connect the same MCP server to ChatGPT or Codex or Claude Code, your same data will be available there as well. So it's really like a universal memory layer that spans across or that sits on top of all of your different AI tools. I don't know, I feel like there's some downtime going on with Claude. Maybe let's try with ChatGPT. Okay, you can also do it. Let's open a new chat. Is it? No, something is wrong with Claude, but I am gonna try with ChatGPT. So if you go in ChatGPT apps, okay, I think I already have this connected, the same AI context flow connected here as well. So what's okay, so Claude is back finally. So for example, I asked it to like list all my memory buckets. It's showing it went to my MCP connector and showed that, okay, this is, you have this GTM for product X, which has 2 items regarding BTB GTM strategies. You have this and that and that. Okay, show. So from here, what you can do is like you can connect your different tools to the same memory source, and they're all going to read and write to the same memory source. You can edit, you can delete, you can do version controlling. A lot of stuff is possible. And if, for example, this was a chat that you want to save into your memory, you can also do it directly from here, for example. Let me show you. So now I'm trying to save the newer stuff that Claude searched for me. And then I'm going to use a save memory and save it back to the memory bucket so that all of my other connected AI tools can also access the same memory. So now it's calling the tool, the save memory tool of the connector, and then it's going to do it. So now if I go, it says that it has saved it. And if I go back to my memory bucket, we can see that there's like this new entry directly from Claude. So it says that saved by Claude via MCP. I can open it on the side. I can also see like what is it, like what was saved. I can also download it if I want. I can see we haven't done any updates yet, but let's say if I remove this one and then I can save pending changes, and then there will be a version history as well. That, okay, what was changed, why was it changed, stuff like that. And then if you want, you can, yeah, so editing was done. So you can also now see the version history. You can see that this is the current version and this is the V1. And last thing that I want to show you is that you can also share this with other people in your team. And you can give them like a viewer or a contributor role. And once you do that, they will also have access to the same bucket. And yeah, that's how you can also do the sharing. Can you switch back, please? So yeah, sorry I had to go back for the demo because we couldn't show the demo from here. And this is how you can like play around with creating one knowledge base, or some people also like to call it your second brain or your context management system, whatever you want to call it, but your data in one place, and then you orchestrate your data across different tools. But there's another interesting thing that we're working on, and while we were doing it, we have around 5,000 users right now that are using it, and the initial results have been really good. But we are going a step further, and that is that context alone is just data. Skills is where it gets even more interesting. So think of the context as the data, and skills is like expertise on top. So for example, a marketer can, let's say there's a marketer that has 20 years of experience and they're like really good at what they do. What they can do is like they can add data pieces, and then on top they can add like, think of skills as like really large prompts, but a way for the agent to understand how you want it to perform under different scenarios. So for example, how to do SEO, how to do GEO, how to write content, how to write emails. All of these tips and tricks can be extracted and be created as skills. And this is what we're working on right now. Like, how do you take context and skill and then combine them and create a reusable intelligence package that can not only be shared, not only be plugged into any agent, but can also be monetized? Can you move the... And that is where comes the context marketplace. So we have partnered with Oasis Protocol, and we're going to launch a context marketplace in August. So if you guys feel like this is an interesting thing to do, sign up for, yeah, sign up in the QR code, and then we'll send you an email when it's live.
Thank you, Hira. We will now open the floor for questions.
Plurality, the company, how's the financial situation? I assume you're a startup probably, so what's the runway? And for your customers, in case you're not profitable, which I probably assume, are there any customers that are yet profitable or on the track to being profitable? And what is their secret in order to get there?
Okay, so I guess we are profitable, we are revenue making, and right now we are funding all our operations from our revenue. Like I said, we have around 5,000 users. A significant percentage of that is paid users. We're also running like flash sales and stuff like that right now. So that's why we are not really hunting for VC funding or anything like that. But I know where you're coming from. VC funding is hard these days, but that's not a problem for us because we're not looking for it anyways. Yeah, so I guess one line, lean, mean, and profitable. We also took VC funding a while back. I would not say that we're completely bootstrapped. What you can call, I think there's a new term for it, seed strapped. So where you take a small amount of money from angels or accelerators, and then you really make every dollar count and pivot until you find something that sticks. So this is not our first rodeo, and this is not our first product. If you look us up online, Plurality Network, we have been around for a while. And there was one vision that we started working on. This, the term open context layer was something we coined in 2023, where every time I used to say, okay, we're building open context layer, people were like, what is context? Fast forward to 2026, I don't need to explain that anymore. I'm thankful for that. But we have had a couple different products that we launched on the same vision, that your data is yours. You should be able to take it with you wherever you go on the internet. That is the you could say, the essence of the company or the vision that we're working. And every product that we roll out, every iteration that we do is in that same direction. So I guess we had one vision, we just made pivots, and this is the one that stuck.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I'm a heavy user of Cowork plus Obsidian, and when I saw this presentation, I felt, well, there might be some advantages of yours. So how do you differentiate against Cowork, for example, plus Obsidian, and what are the advantages?
Yeah, so I would say that there are definitely some overlaps with Obsidian, but Obsidian was a knowledge base that slapped AI on top, kind of. Like, they're a company that was founded maybe in 2017, 2018, so they're like pretty old. And they started off as a second brain, and they're more focused on the local setup. We are more focused on people that are not that technical, want something very easy, very quickly that they can bootstrap, so they don't have to like do local setups, set up markdown files, know how to do all of that stuff. Because people that we talked to with like Obsidian users, they were, it was taking them a lot of time to actually find a setup that was working for them, and then finding the right plugins and everything. We, first of all, we are starting from the AI base, so we are really AI native. Everything we do is like, we're not a knowledge base first, we are an AI knowledge base. So I guess that's the first difference in product decisions that you would see. And the second thing is that we want to make things very, very easy and intuitive for the average user. We're not going to ask you to do complicated setups. We're not going to ask you to figure out if you want to use this plugin or that plugin. We want that an average knowledge worker who just wants to use AI tools to the best, but does not have weeks or does not have the mental capacity to like tinker on the weekends and spend weeks building something. That's the target, that's the kind of person we're targeting.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I also saw Faisalabad in there, so props to Pakistan here. I wanted to ask you about my thoughts on this product. Seems like it's like a RAG management system, maybe. Like you get different content from the web, and then you kind of like organize it in a way, and user can actually also within the browser kind of curate data. I'm just curious to know if I have data sitting in other places like GitHub or Confluence or other internal systems, and there's also a lot of material and data that I could use for AI. So would we migrate that into your product, or is it that can be standalone and yours is standalone in some way, they're connected somehow later on? Maybe you can give me a landscape of how a lot of different data floating in different systems would work with your system, and maybe just a bit about like kind of clear that out.
Yeah, agreed. So right now, the only way to import data into our system is to like download from wherever it is, Google Drive, Notion, Confluence, whatever, and upload it. But we are working on connectors where we can pull data directly from, let's say, Notion or GitHub or whatever. So we will be launching these data pullers or connectors, if you can say like that. Confluence doesn't have an MCP, so it's not really that easy. And most of these companies are not giving out MCPs because data is the moat, and they don't really want, like if you see, they're experimenting with agents inside their ecosystem, but not letting the data go outside of their system. Some companies are, but some companies aren't. So it's really about like what they think internally, how they want to maintain their competitive advantage. But let's say if Confluence does give out an MCP, two ways: either connect everything and put it in our system, or connect multiple MCP connectors inside, let's say, your Claude agent. You can do that theoretically, but the only downside to that is that, for example, in our system, we have conflict resolution, version history. But then whenever you will be like typing a query into an agent, it will be like all these agents also have like a harness loop inside it. So it will see that, okay, I have Confluence MCP connected, I have AI Context Flow MCP connected, and then it will try to pull data from both of these, and then it might get into like a conflicting situation because there is like not one source. But theoretically, could be possible. Only if Confluence does launch, an MCP. Okay. You can like download and upload, or you can use the browser extension that we have. Right click each page, save to memory. So kind of like how I showed you on the website, you can just like save this entire page to memory. You can do that.
We have time for one last question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to still figure out a bit how your product exactly works. So there's this concept of LLM Wiki by Enrico Pathy, you probably are aware of. Can you compare a bit against this and other approaches, because I think they solve similar issues?
Yes. Okay, this is a big debate. Maybe if I'm unable to like answer it fully here, maybe let's meet outside somewhere. But yeah, Andrzej Krapathy, what he said was put everything in a markdown file, put everything locally, and then let agents do the job. When Claude Code came out in November, that's where this idea clicked in everyone's head that, okay, if Claude Code is able to work with code files that well, then that means markdown files can also be worked with, which is true. It can be done. You can create a local setup, but then think about how you would manage it if it grows really, really large. Let's say you're bringing in data from different sources. Your older data is getting stale. You want to share it with another buddy, another colleague. You want to back it up. That's where it gets complicated. And if you're really like, as we will be using more and more AI tools, I think creating like a proper system that's backed up, that's synced, that you can access from different devices, that's not just there locally. And one other thing is that if you're just using markdowns, the amount of tokens that you use is also quite a lot. So if you're really a power user, it will stop making sense after a while. But as a starting point, pretty good. You can definitely try it out. So, yeah.
Thank you, Hira. Can we have a round of applause for Hira, please? Thank you for really drilling it down that the AI agent is in the product, but the context is. We will now be moving on to agents in production and have yet another impact session. And this session will focus on agents versus workflows in production, what breaks when AI touches real SaaS tools. And to take the session forward, we have the founder of Weaves.io, building integration infrastructure for AI native software. His work focuses on making AI agents useful in production by giving them safe, typed, auditable access to real SaaS tools through hosted await and end-user scoping, MCP servers, human gates approval, and code mode execution. Please join me in welcoming on stage the founder of Weaves.io, Ahmad Shakir.
Hello, is everybody able to hear me? Awesome. So I am Ahmad Shakir, here presenting Weaves. How many of you have already built custom agents or custom workflows, maybe using n8n or a product like Make? Maybe a show of hands? Yeah, it was a fair amount, all right. So as we all know that agents, like LLMs, these are these bits of intelligence. And over the past, I would say 2 years, especially this past 8 months, they have their intelligence, they have grown quite wider. So now they are able to think that what they need to perform. But the actual layer where they need to perform and execute, that's the SaaS application, that's Confluence, that's HubSpot, that's Gmail. And that's right now still broken. Like we could give our agents access to these tools, but we don't want them to maybe be able to send Gmail to any email address out there. So what we need is a runtime contract that comprises of identity, audits, context, state, permissions, and the execution itself. Like you need connectors to all the SaaS applications out there. SaaS, Gmail, plurality network as well. Whatever is out there. It still doesn't work. There. Oh. Perfect. I am going the wrong way around, so apologies. Okay, so the models can answer now, but the product still has to act. You could, make your harness or your product that it's a personal assistant that, maintains a memory of, what you're performing, what your job is, and then it needs to perform those actions in a particular application or a set of applications. For example, a user can send a prompt, something like send the agreement link and then notify sales. So now what the agent needs to do is it needs to touch multiple surfaces. First, it needs to understand from the context what this user is, what they mean when they say that, send an agreement link. It needs to go search into its memory what that agreement link is. Then it needs to find that how is it able to notify an external channel such as sales. So it would maybe look for email connector or Gmail connector or maybe Slack, and then it would eventually look for the sales channel and send it over there. So you just give agent one line, and then it has to go explore and work over all these different external tools, context, and then produce the result. All right, so workflows, earlier we were very crazy about n8n and products like these, but now they are breaking apart. The issue is that n8n or these, I would say, pre-AI gen workflow automators, they were deterministic. So you already knew that your Gmail workflow, it's going to send an email to xyz@gmail.com. So you were not paranoid about them. You could, because it was predeterministic, you always knew that whatever happens, your workflow would be only able to send to a particular, Gmail address or a inbox. But now it's very different. Now your agents, we are actually providing them this capability that they are able to explore the set of actions that they are able to take on the go. And now the primitives or the guardrails that we want to build on top of this, they are a lot very different. Maybe you want your agent to get your approval whenever it is sending to any sales at the rate of email. So it's a different way of building now. Now you are building, instead of defining a predeterministic workflow, you are giving agent a task, an execution environment, and then providing it, guardrails and bottlenecks around it so it doesn't deviate from your main path. So again, one simple SaaS action hides 7 production layers. It's identity, it's credentials, it's context, it's execution, it's state, it's approval, and it's audit. And currently, if you are building a custom agent or automating any workflow, and you're automating using LLM or Gen AI, you have to build all those primitives yourself. And it's a pain, quite a big one. If you have dealt with any one of them. Like credentials, it's OAuth, identity, you have to do scoping, RBAC. For context, you have to actually first define what context means for your particular application or your particular automation or agent. Execution, you have to define an environment where your agent is able to execute code, where your agent is able to execute or trigger actions in external applications, and that's need to be scoped and secure because your user's credentials are in there, and agent is actually performing on behalf of the user. State is, what persists throughout multiple sessions. So an agent that, runs, performs something, and then dives off without producing any artifacts or state, it's useless because the next time it wakes up, it doesn't know what it did the last time around. Approval, we need to have human gates and approval. For example, a billing decision needs to be routed to billing team. An executive decision needs to be routing to maybe, some executive body in the organization. And once your agent produces all these actions, they need to be auditable. Whenever an agent performs something, it needs to bring with itself a receipt of work done. And that should be cryptographically auditable in the best case scenario. And this is a pain to build if you're building it yourself. So now I'll come to, I've been talking a lot about context, and many people are there over here as well. So what actually is context? Context isn't only that who I am or what I do, but it's rather also what we are trying to accomplish, and you don't provide context to the agent like before it actually starts the job. You provide agent with the primitives, the knowledge sources, the actions, and let the agent define its own context in order to perform the particular action you are giving it. So you would give it particular tool sets, and the agent should be able to discover them on the go. For example, if it needs to send an email, it says it searches for send email and then gets that tool back, and then it must be able to orchestrate that, how it uses it in order to perform the particular job that it has been assigned to do. All right, so here are the primitives that you usually need in your execution environment if you're building your custom harnesses or your agents. You need connections to these external SaaS applications. You need human gates, like human approvals or routing to different teams. You need audit, you need files, you need triggers. For example, an email comes in or a Slack message comes in or a record gets updated in HubSpot and you want your agent to perform something. State KV in order for your agent to actually be able to sustain data or artifacts over different sessions. Sandbox, so they are able to control browsers, they are able to control computer, they are actually able to control a computer like a human does. So what I like to think about the execution environment is that it's the alternate of a work disk, and you give it to an agent. A human worker needs a work disk to perform knowledge work tasks, so does an agent. But it's not a physical desk, you could call it a work desk or something. So tools. Usually people are using one or two connectors with their Claude or ChatGPT, but that's not the real world. In real world, we are connected to something like I use, I don't know, more than 80 applications, different ones for different purposes. And in the perfect world, I would like my agents to have access to all of them. So they are able to, I could just assign them a task and they go out there, act on my behalf and perform it. But the issue is that if you give your agents access to these 80 applications at once, each of these applications is exposing 10 or 20 tools. So that's like 150 or 200 tools that you need to give to your agent in its context. And that just bloats it up. So you have been hearing in the last couple of months that MCP is very bloated, that's not the right way to use it. Maybe we need to start using CLIs. But to be honest, that's saying like HTTP is bad. MCP is just a protocol, and what we communicate over it and send over it is the issue. So Anthropic, as well as Cloudflare, since last November, they have been pushing that instead of loading model upfront with all the tools, we need to implement progressive discovery, which is that instead of giving agents like 1,000 tools, we give them only 3. We give them a search tool, we give them an inspect tool, and we give them an execute tool. So using search, agent is able to see what's available in its workspace. It's memory tool, it's Gmail connector, maybe it's a browser connector, like a visual one, it's able to control the browser. And then once it knows what tools are available to it, it could inspect the API and write code against it. So you could ask your agent, instead of calling tool one by one, it could chain actions and run them once on the go. So you could think of it like N8N, but dynamic. So your agent, instead of running a predeterministic workflow, it is able to build one on the go and execute it in half a second or second, depending on how complex your workflow is. So state is where your agents, your chat applications actually start becoming agents. Because once your chat application, it knows what it did in a particular session, then it is able to, when it's executed in the next session, it's able to see what it did in the last one. It has state, it has memory, sandbox, triggers, and files. And using especially files and states, it's able to recover what it was doing and perform again the next actions that the user wants it to perform. If you guys want, I could maybe also share the slides after the talk. So what do you need to build into your custom agents or harnesses? These are the 7 points. I spent some time thinking about, what would be the most crucial 7 points that you need. So I'll just, read them out loud because they are, most of them are very common ones. If you are into agents, you would already know. You need to model the task as state changes and not messages. What this means is that you don't tell the model only your happy path. You give it your happy path, that this action you need to perform or particular issue, but then you also give it primitives or guardrails around it. You also say that, if this happens, then you need to perform in this way. But you don't define that what that way is. The model needs to figure that out on the go dynamically. So you need to keep the tool discovery progressive. As I showed earlier, instead of dumping the model with 1,000 tools, you need to let the model discover them on the go and then build workflow or whatever they need to progressively. Run complex tool composition in a sandbox. As the model has now built up the knowledge of what tools they want to use, and they have written code, now you need to execute in a sandbox somewhere and insert their credentials very safely, and then just delete that box once that execution has been implemented. We do not want that sandbox to be alive after user's execution. Then we need separate user identity, workspace, and credentials. Maybe you have your agent access to 2 Slack accounts, or maybe 2 Gmail accounts. One is an organization's Gmail account, and other is the end user's Gmail account, a personal one. So it's, and your agent must also be able to differentiate between that this is a personal email account, this is a work email account, and it should have those primitives built in. That maybe if it's sending a particular action to the work account, then it needs to get access to your organization inbox. If it's the personal one, then it would just go ahead. You have to bake these primitives into your harness. You have to persist artifact state and traces outside the chat. That's very important. Because if it lives inside the chat, it's only a chat application like ChatGPT. If it's an agent, it needs to live or persist its states in a DB outside the chat sessions window itself. You have to gate high impact external effects. If it's maybe you are refunding your customers and there is a refund agent, and if it's refunding anything above 50 euros, you would want to maybe human gate it, so it gets human approval and then the action gets executed. And then you have to do evaluation cost, state difference. You have to be sure that your agent's actions are replayable as well. So if maybe something occurs and your agent read an Excel file and then has to send a Slack message, and maybe when it was reading the Excel file, Excel was down. So now what happens the next time you replay it? The agent must know that the last time it tried, it failed on what particular action. So maybe there were some actions that it performed earlier as well. So you have to make sure that your agent does not perform the actions again, because maybe some of the action has been refund somebody an external amount. So replayability is very important if you're building agents that need to perform in production. Guardrails are important. They must not only remain in the agent system prompt. Rather, they should be on the infrastructure level itself. Like even if your agent tries to send or perform an action that you told it in the system prompt not to perform, even in this case, your agent must not be able to perform it. Like your infrastructure, which is actually executing those actions, it must be able to block them right away. The actions that you set as vulnerable or maybe external, or maybe you put a human gate on top of it. So the frontier right now is converging on the runtime design. We already have LLMs that are intelligent enough. They can already perform economically viable tasks a lot better than most humans, I would say. So the issue or the layer to build next is how they perform and where they are able to perform. So that was my talk. If anybody of you is building in agents or has dealt with any of the primitives I have showed earlier, maybe hit me up. I'm building a product around it. It's called Weaves.io, and we are open right now to beta customers. That's it. Thank you. Otherwise, I would be available after the call as well, after this talk. Go ahead. You are welcome.
So let's say I built many important How you manage to do this, make it deterministic, and don't need human to monitor every time? Because sometimes it's very stupid actions and I need stupid actions.
So there are two things over here. First, those actions, if they are critical, you need to add a human gate over there, so your agent is not able to perform those actions blindly. First, it maybe asks you on Slack, or maybe a particular dashboard. You could try the product. And second question, what was that? Determinism. So the best is you do not make your agents deterministic. Let them be non-deterministic, and that's where the magic happens. You just add the guardrails around it and let them do the magic. But I still do understand your point that you still do have to nudge them every now and then. So the magic is that you have an observer agent. I call them reflectors in my setups. So these reflector agents, they wake up every 6 hours and they look at the other agent working. And the job of this agent is only to evaluate qualitatively and quantitatively if that particular agent is doing its particular job. And if it is not, then this reflector agent has all the knobs. So it's able to tune it. So the nudging that you are doing, an agent is able to do that now. Just break the loop. Any other questions?
We have time for one more question, if anyone has a question.
I cannot see you, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was just telling they can have one more question before we move on to the next session. All right, looks like we don't have a question, so thank you so much, Ahmed. So we'll go with one more impact session before we take a short break, and this is going to be on the topic from prompt engineering to loop engineering, the agent engineering journey. To take the session forward, we have someone who spent over a decade as a software engineer, working across various projects and developing a deep passion for automation. When AI first gained momentum, he went all in on AI agents and built numerous concepts around monetization in an AI-driven world through his company, What AI. Alongside that, he runs a YouTube channel focused on vibe coding and agent orchestration, sharing his knowledge as practical inspiration for others. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome on stage Sascha Hoffmann. You can take that, yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm here, yes, perfect. Here's our second one. Then I take this one. Test, test, test. Yes, perfect. Hello everybody. I hope you had a great time so far. Short, also you can start the presentation if you want. Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. First of all, hello, I'm Sascha. I'm very well introduced. I make a lot of content about vibe coding and agents. I have a newsletter, YouTube channel. And in my past, I was a professional dancer, and then I have a big breakup in my leg, and then I started with software engineering, so a very crazy, okay, what I can do with my life stuff. And now, I do AI agents. Was a very big topic for me, and I told myself, okay, why I do that? And for me was the answer very clear. I find out, okay, with technology, you have the possibilities to make you free time. And I think that's very important to understand, or for me, to share. Every time I go on stage or share my content, I want to impact other people. Hey, use technology to make a better life for yourself. And that's what's about today, because I want to share the journey by What AI, how we sell agents, and we had the journey from prompt engineering to loop engineering. And we go to every journey by that and how we experience it. And that's the hopefully best outcome for you, that you do it for yourself. Okay, how I can use for me the different levels I want to show today. Okay, first of all, What AI? What AI is today a combination of an AI wrapper and a custom software solution where you can use agent to create ideas about content, create the content itself, and publish the content. It's a normal chat interface you know from other tools like Claude or ChatGPT. You can put your idea in it, mention some agents we have on our list. Actually, we deployed a single solution, so the master agent decide, okay, which agent is the best fit for your case, so a research, Instagram agent, LinkedIn, and so on, and plan with you the whole part. You have a content planner, and then with the content planner, you can say, okay, please publish this content piece day X, Y, Z. And that's the actual state of our tool. But, okay, I don't understand this. Zurück. Perfect. Yeah. So what is the division by What AI in general? We think everyone needs good marketing, but good marketing is very hard because of three things. Okay, which button I need to use to go forward? This? Es gibt nur oben und unten. Okay, perfect. Then I use this button. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, three topics. That's resources, it's time, and consistency. And that's very hard if you are a founder or a team. You have a lot of stuff to do. And our vision in the long term is, hey, we want to provide you good marketing with a one-click solution. You connect all your data points. I think the two presentation before was a very great example how important data points and context is. And the idea is, okay, please connect your data points to What AI, and the agents find out by their data what is the best built-in public marketing strategy for you and execute it for you and publish it for you. That's the idea where we want to go over time. It's not today, but we work on that. And over the last 1.5 years, we go through different stages. Okay, on my screen it looks better than here, but it's okay. I think you understand the part. It's 4 levels: prompt, context, skills, and loop. You can add harness engineering, but I think for today it is absolutely enough. And that's my first question to you. Who of you do prompt engineering? I think everyone. Who of you do context engineering? Okay, who of you do skill engineering? Okay, more hands than by context engineering, that's interesting. And who of you do loop engineering? Okay, yeah, less people. And that's what we experienced on our journey. And I want to share step by step, okay, what we experienced by prompt engineering. That's one of our first agents. We have a little bit the Disney look of our agents to make it a little bit more relatable. So, for example, voice agent, Instagram agent, chief marketing agent, topic research agent. And we used a tool called Diffie. It's an open source environment to build agents. And we do a lot of system prompting. So write line of prompts, okay, how we can increase the Instagram agent. We feed it with information, okay, what is important about Instagram, and so on. But we had 2 main issues with this strategy. It's hard to track for us, okay, which line in the prompt really improved the output, and the output was every time manually. So I sit down, okay, is this LinkedIn post cool? My personal opinion, yes or no, but that's not a really good solution to make it scalable. And the second one, that was more important, that we do also today, every month we track over all conversation, okay, how many token cost our stuff, system prompt, tools, MCP, blah, blah, blah. 50% of the token cost was system prompting, and that's, okay, that's very crazy. Our user pay 50% of the usage they have per month for our system prompts. That's not fair. So it was around, I think, 12% what the user input only was in one conversation, in average. Sometimes higher, sometimes lower, but in average, 12%. And that's, we found out for us, okay, only a prompt is not a product. We need to find a way to improve our agents without make the prompt longer, and longer. And the first thing was, okay, add context, personalized context. And that's then the part context engineering. And for that, I need to share honestly, that's super crazy hard. Context engineering based on a person, it's super hard to deliver. Okay, how the user, also we can track a lot of data and he upload 20 PDFs, that's super nice, but we need to summarize it in a way the agent can use it and provide it to the user that he can review it and say, yeah, that's right. So, and what we find out, I'm not sure how it is about you, if they upload 20 PDFs, we show them 2 PDFs back as a review, no one read it. They say yes or no, but later, hey, the output of the agent ABC was not correct. But it was in the review file what we gave the user back. And that's because I like very much the presentation before, because that's a huge main topic with this MCP connector and how to handle data. It's also the second brain, big part. So you see a little insight how we create brand voices for profiles. And actually we are version 21 and it's not over. It's an ongoing task that we every week find out, okay, what is a better solution, how we can improve the UX, and yeah, it's a very hard topic and a never-ending story that I can provide to you. So if you build some kind of agents for other, context engineering is a hard part. It's also here a very important sentence I found out: more context is not better, created content is king. So don't, if the user gives you 500 files of insights, make no sense to provide it to the agents because then you have the same issue, a lot of token cost only on the input or not on output. And we have, or I think it's a general statistic, the dump zone is around 40%. So if the contexts are too high in one session, then the agent will dumber and dumber and dumber based on the model, based how you achieve that. And that's also then what we found out with the presentation before with these tool calls, search, execution, and inspect, right? That was the three. We have a similar behavior on our tool, but that's then very important that you, for context engineering, there's a very important part how to get the data to the agent. The third one is skill engineering. It's my favorite topic because it's the most fun part and the easiest to share part. And what we found out, okay, first of all, we started with building a lot of workflows to give our agent tool. So that was okay. I found out, okay, it's cool, but we need to, or we find out better solution, and that's also a big topic of the first part, prompt engineering, hard to track. It was very, or it's very easy for us to build, for example, with Claude skills, with the process, create LinkedIn post, and then validate it in one chat without going to the production environment. You can check it with Langdog, with OpenRouter, whatever. And if you found out, okay, now is the skill very, very nice, also the output of the skill, I can deploy it to the production and all agents have automatically all this stuff. Depends now how you sell agents. I saw a lot of time that people build plugins and sell the plugins to people that they can use by their own agents. It's also possible, very nice idea, but in general, I like it that skill engineering makes it super easy for you to improve the quality output So you can validate faster and have less token cost because the skill in general can optimize on process and not on context. And the last one, loop engineering. That's super. How we start with it. We develop for our own product, or we use loop engineering to improve our product. And now we are actually on the one to how we can improve our product with internal looping. So that's the hard part, because a lot of frameworks are out there. Hey, that's the best looping framework you can use with blah, blah, blah. But if you want to test it, that's very hard. You need to track cost, how the token usage is on different levels, how it's iterate over days, different models, blah, blah, blah. Super annoying work, but it's super helpful, because we learned, okay, if we use in the harness what actually exists, that works very well. One example for that is, or a little side note, from Steinberger OpenClaw, you shouldn't write prompts for your agent, you shouldn't build loops that builds the agent prompts. And that's, for us, we try now to implement in our tool, don't write prompt to get good output, good content, define the goal, and the goal should result in good content. That's what we want to achieve, so we are on the run for it. But what I used in the past, last week, was the most exciting part. Fable 5 was crazy nice. So I started with this prompt. That's a lot of user question, and I get a plan. And then I used, I tried Goal and Ultra code in Cloud Code. Okay, how's the outcome? And it was crazy. Also Goal, super nice with Fable 5. Ultra code, I was broke after minute 10 because he spawned 27 agents and thought, okay, that's too much. But the output in general was awesome. So I liked it very much, and so I'm not happy that we don't now use other models, but in general it's the same topic. Define a plan, a goal, and then use loops. Behind goal is some kind of loop system in Cloud Code. But this now to build for our own, it's very hard. Because the real loop is if you save the findings in the loop in some kind of storage. So there is then wieder context engineering, and that's really hard about costs. So for a local system, you can use the CloudMD to, hey, that's my 3 findings, please add it. And in the next run, the agent will learn it. Here, CloudMD, I learned blah, blah, blah. Next time I can do it better. And over time, great, but only for a local system. We played around with 2 stuff. One time is Superbase, long chain, LangGraph. Okay, how we can build some kind of looping itself. So every time we get a result, and we track also the performance of the content. We write it back in the database and then find out, okay, get we over time improvement, but it's a long-term run. So you can't track this over one day. You need to track it 2 months to have a good output. Little example, you need to define in the software, trigger, the agent start, read outcomes, execute, save insights, and again. And this kind of loop engineering in a software, if someone has the best framework, please share it with me. We need to find out, and we will share it over social media. But for now, I think it's a super, super important part, how to learn loop engineering in your own software. And as a little side note, we try also some kind of, I call it proactive agents, also Hermes, OpenClaw, and so on. Okay, can we develop some kind of autonomous loop system in our database system? Is also a try. We're not sure, is it really working well? So because we have the problem with what is the right model. So we tried a lot of Olama cloud models. Kimi 2.7 is, I think, out now from 2 days or 5 days, I'm not sure. But that's also an ongoing part from our side. And that's together, sorry for the bad graphic, is on our journey from prompt engineering to loop engineering. And I hope you can a little bit imagine, okay, what you need to do now to find out the different levels. So you can add harness engineering, but harness engineering, from my perspective, is super technical and hard. Also it's its own topic itself. So it's a little bit around that, all this part. And yeah, that's why I want to recommend, try this first, find out what is the best solution for you and what are the frameworks that works for your software. And then I think you will build awesome products. And for this, I will thank you for your time. And if you have questions, feel free. And yeah, I'm super happy about it. If you check out What AI, if you check my YouTube channel, and if you have questions after the presentation, feel free to come to me. I will be around somewhere and drink a coffee.
Since we're running a bit behind schedule, we will limit the number of questions to 2. No, that was perfect. You were perfectly timed. But we will limit the number of questions to 2 if you have any, or you can catch him during the break. I think that would be more ideal. So let's take a 15-minute... Okay, we'll go with 1 question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you give example of good loop that you used? Because it's a hot topic and I'm not sure if it's working good or not. Yeah.
Yes, I can. In the first example for the cloud environment where I used the prompt to make me a plan and then with Goal or Ultra Code, that's, I think, for me so far the best output based on it. For me personally, hey, I need analysis of a person and I need a voice print, what is the content pillars of this person, also the whole context engineering for a person I develop from a loop. So I have then, I think, around 6 or 7 files, are super details about the company and the person. And with this base files, I was then possible to create authentic content for this person. And if I do it only with prompt, that's horrible long because I need to review it and that's super annoying. And with the loop, it was more or less a self-improvement, okay, how I can improve the context for this special person. And that's also the idea what we want to develop, a loop in our software that make the onboarding and introduction based on the input because most of the people, the input is very, very less.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have a round of applause for Sascha Hoffmann? And we will take a 15-minute break. We request all of you to please come back in exactly 15 minutes or even earlier so that we can resume the session ASAP. Thank you.